Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Hey, this is Abby Kay, and you're listening to The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast with Jay Scott.
Everybody, it is Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying healthy, staying safe, doing what you can to get by in these stressful, troubled times. As I mentioned at the beginning of every episode, cases seem to be going up, and we're in for a long, cold winter, like the Cinderella album states. That, we've got some work to do and we've got some things to figure out. And not to get too political or anything like that, but if we all work together, I think this will be an easier time to get through than if we're at each other's throats and being stressed out at each other. So I know it's a difficult time, but let's work through all this and let's see if we can make spring happen. I know everyone wants to go out and see live music. Everybody wants to go to a concert, myself included. And one of the bands that is expected to tour next spring, summer, whenever things open up, and that is AC/DC. And this is kind of a bonus episode of The Hook Rocks because AC/DC just released their latest album, Power Up. Incredible record, an awesome album. And we have our community AC/DC historian. I joke, but I'm really not. And that is Dean Clark, previous guest. What's going on, Dean? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me on again.
Well,
I don't know about an AC/DC historian, but certainly an AC/DC fanatic.
Well, maybe it's like a fanatic historian. Maybe we can like kind of merge those two words together. But I can't think of a better person to have on the podcast with the release of the new album Power Up this past Friday the 13th than you, because in our first discussion we had, Jesus, back last summer of 2019, I think it was.
Yeah.
We did an AC/DC discussion, which was just incredible, and I learned what appreciation you have for this band and, all the knowledge that you have. So with the new album out, I'm glad you're on here, and we're going to do a review of the album. And, it was just, my first opinion of this, let's just start it off, is this is the album that we all need in 2020. Rock and roll had its moment last year with the movie The Dirt in May of 2019, and all that momentum seemed to be sucked out with the pandemic. And what better band to bring back the momentum than AC/DC in the album Power Up?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And looking back, think about this. It's 2020. Brian is 73. Cliff is 70. Phil Rudd 66. Angus 65. And it seemed like really that these guys were done. They lost Malcolm. Brian Johnson loses his hearing and has all that issue. Cliff retires. Phil was being Phil, getting in trouble. We know how the last tour ended. And let's be honest, as AC/DC fans, as music fans, you looked at that whole situation with the guys and you thought, they're done. There's no way that they're coming back the way they were. And like, I sit here and go, my goodness, like, after all that, to be sitting here today discussing a brand new AC/DC album with really the original lineup from the Back in Black days, minus Malcolm, is to me is just amazing that we can even discuss this.
You're absolutely right. I mean, when we think back the last couple of years in AC/DC history, and I think you and I even talked about this, about the likelihood of them touring again, and it was pretty low, especially with Brian. I know Axel filled in with the dates that Brian couldn't do because of the hearing loss, and things were kind of left unknown when they stopped touring. And then we started to hear reports, news started to slowly come out about these riffs that Malcolm had wrote and recorded, and we heard that, and then we started to see pictures of the band recording in Canada, and we just didn't know. There was no confirmation of, from the band. And then the pandemic hit, and everything that seemed to be building up to something completely went cold. We didn't really get much information out after that. And then, of course, the video came out about a month ago, Shot in the Dark, which is a great AC/DC song. And then all of a sudden we have a new AC/DC album. So here we are.
Yeah. And well, Vancouver not being all that far from where I live, and, those photos coming out, and there was some discussion whether or not it was true. Were they fake photos? Were they photos from prior years when they were in Vancouver recording? And, lots of different things that were going out in the media. And hard to believe that was 2 years ago, Jay. That was 2018 when all those photos came out. So that's how long it's been.
Yeah.
Until the new album came out, and everything typical AC/DC, right? Everything's quiet. Nobody's saying anything. You never hear from the band. There's just no rumors really from the band themselves. No talk, nothing. And then boom, here we go. The all of a sudden, right out of the blue, the new song drops, and everybody's excited.
There's something to be said about staying quiet and staying out of the public eye, because I've always believed, and you can also use Zeppelin as an example too, that less is more, and less makes people crave it more. You know what I mean? Like if you're constantly, if you're constantly in the media doing things and doing stuff and whatever, it loses that polish. It loses, the mystery of the band. And AC/DC and Zeppelin have always been similar with that, where they stay out of the tabloids. They don't really, obviously there was a bunch of news with Axel and Brian and that whole situation, but that was more within the music, hard rock community. It wasn't on the front page of, gossip magazines or whatever. And, look at the excitement of the fans that, this album drops and everybody's losing their mind, because not only is it AC/DC, and I've been lukewarm on the last few releases that they've done, but this album just is the right album at the right time, the right moment to release this type of music. And I have been listening to it nonstop since I've heard it, and it is awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny, one of the great quotes that I've heard or I've read, and it goes, I think it was Brian Johnson that had the quote. And, as we talk about new music, and your podcast is, a lot of it is about promoting new bands, and the fact that if we look for it, there's some great new rock and roll out there. And there truly is. And you and I, we've talked about those bands many times over the times. And then we come back to a band like AC/DC that was pretty much done, and then come back and do what they do.
And it reminded me of a quote, and I think it was Brian that says, "We're like Coca-Cola. It doesn't matter how many times you've tasted it. You might drink something else for a while, but you always go back to Coke." It's the same thing with AC/DC. It's the real thing.
That's a great comment. That's a great quote.
Isn't it, right? Like, it's so true. We have our favorites, but something about AC/DC, when it's so much like that we'll go off and I'll go listen to Blackstone Cherry for a while, or Charm City Devils, or Blacktop Mojo, whoever it might be. All great bands and great music, but at the end of the day, you come back to the real rock and roll, and AC/DC seems to be one of those bands.
I also think that new rock music that we talk about a lot on this show needs bands like AC/DC, needs bands like Motley Crue, needs those bands that are of the classic rock era to kind of lead the ship or bring people in. I mean, I know that we talk about the classic rock fans. I've kind of turned a corner and believe that, the new rock bands shouldn't worry about the classic rock fans. They should worry about the youth. But as Motley Crue did with The Dirt, brought the youth in to their music, with kids sitting around, e-learning, not doing much, this is a chance, another chance for rock music to be brought in by a band like AC/DC.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The funny thing was, when Shot in the Dark was released, it was a couple days after Eddie Van Halen had passed. And I did not listen to it for like a week. And the reason why is because I didn't want to associate the song with the passing of Eddie Van Halen. And I really stayed away from it because I didn't want to have those thoughts in my head about Eddie. And then every time I hear Shot in the Dark, I'm brought back to that sad place, thinking about Eddie Van Halen. So I really, did not, I forced myself to stay away from it until I was ready. And I'm glad I did, because as I've mentioned and I've talked about, and you have even said this too, music is about timing, and it's about how you're feeling. And I don't know if I would have listened to it right after Eddie Van Halen's death, if I would have had a different viewpoint of the song, of the album. And I think it would have changed it for me.
Yeah, no, timing. And that is the beauty of music, right? We talk about this and how what connects us, and you hit the nail on the head. We associate music with events in our lives. And in that case, had you listened to Shot in the Dark at the time of Eddie's passing, that would carry with you for years and years. And that's what music does for us. It is that passage to our past and events and so forth that happens in our lives. And we all do that. We know where we were when we heard certain songs. We know what we were doing when we heard certain songs or got into certain bands. And I just love that about music. Music is so personal. That's why I never, ever criticize somebody's taste in music, because what is important to that person and why they like a particular artist or genre of music is personal to them. That's their life, their memories. So who are we, or who am I or anybody to criticize somebody's taste in music? I know where I was when I first heard AC/DC. I remember it like it was yesterday. I can picture it. I know where I was when I heard certain songs or remember certain concerts and memories from times in my life and different songs and different bands and different music, right? And that's the beauty of it to me. And I always kind of shake my head in social media when people are talking about bands and the AC/DC fan that says Iron Maiden sucks or Van Halen sucks and it's amazing to me that rock fans do that. I think sometimes we're the greatest enemy of rock and roll music is the rock fan. I don't understand that side of it, and you and I've probably discussed that in the past as well. But I'm kind of getting off tangent here a little bit, but it doesn't make a band underrated or overrated just because you don't like them.
I agree. I think too many times, I see the comments all the time on my feed saying something about a Kiss song or saying something about Rush songs or Zeppelin songs and it's just like, allow people to enjoy what they enjoy.
Yeah.
You don't have to listen to it. One of the things that I dislike about where we are currently as a society and socially is everybody's got to comment on everything. Everybody's got to say, if there's a poll that I'm running, neither. They both suck. What happened to just kind of walking by, seeing that you don't like either song and continuing to walk by? What happened to those days?
Yeah.
We don't have to hear every comment. We don't have to hear every thought that's in your head. You like what you like. There's no reason for you to say they both suck or neither. It doesn't matter.
Totally agree.
So with that being said, we're going to be critics here on this special episode of the Hook Rocks. We're going to review Power Up, and we're going to get right into it with the first song, Realize, which I think is a great way to open up this album. It's got a great drive to it, and it sets the setting for the rest of the 11 other songs, I should say 12 songs total of this album.
Yeah, I love it, actually. The album itself, I love the mix of the album. I find it really clean sounding. The Cliff Phil Rudd rhythm section really kicks. Brian's voice, I think, is just so solid throughout this album. And yes, it sounds like an AC/DC album. That's kind of weird, hey? But Realize, I think, really, Jay, is a great opening. Straight ahead, rock and roll, good pace. For me, I can picture myself riding a Ducati sport bike, cranking that through the headphones, doing 100 miles an hour on a windy road out in the country. It's that type of pace to it. I think I love the song. It is actually it might be my favorite song, believe it or not. I love the background vocals, but first indication and been listening to this album a lot over the last 24 hours and I love the song and like I say, it's a great opening, straight ahead rock and roll song.
If there's one band that has mastered the way to open up an album, I think it's AC/DC. They always do a fantastic job.
Yeah, like honestly, look back and I agree with your earlier comment about the last two AC/DC albums. Rock or Bust is a good opening. Rock and Roll Train off Black Ice is very good as well.
Moving on to Rejection, another great song, great pace on it. Again, it's AC/DC. I mean, it's it sounds familiar, but it sounds different at the same time. I enjoyed the song. I think this is another great track that is a strong song for this album as far as the whole album goes.
So would you be shocked if I said it's not doing it for me?
Yeah, I am actually.
I don't, maybe I might just need to spend some more time with it, but it's funny because today I had to drive out of town a little bit to go see a client for work purposes. And so it was great because it gave me almost 2 hours of driving time to listen to the album back to back to back. And I even threw on a couple of other albums just to try and listen for some nuances and comparisons and stuff. And for whatever reason, Rejection, I don't know if it's doing it for me. And I found the more I was going through the album, I was hitting next to get to the next song. So I'm not sure what I'm missing there.
Well, again, you could pick this album up in 2 weeks and you could fall in love with it. So, I think it's a great track. I think it's one of the stronger tracks on the album. I think Realize, if we're comparing the first two, is definitely where it's at in terms of if I were to pick A or B, I'd pick A in Realize, but Rejection's right there, and it's a good segue into Shot in the Dark.
Absolutely. Good first single. I can see why they released it as the single. I think it's going to get lots of radio airplay. I'm guessing it's going to be the opening song in concert if they ever, we get through this COVID nonsense and get some live rock and roll back. I can certainly see AC/DC going on tour and that being the first song to kick off the concert. They did it with Rock or Bust. They did it with Rock and Roll Train. And, typically you look back at set lists, whether it be Fly on the Wall, Back in Black, whatever, Usually it's the first single off the album that they open the concert with.
Dare I say that this song has the potential to be considered years from now an AC/DC classic, right there with the Back in Blacks and the Highway to Hells.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe even down like a "You Shook Me All Night Long" type of song.
Yeah, I think
I could definitely see that.
I must have listened to this on repeat probably 20 times when I first listened to it because it's so infectious. Yeah. It's got a great groove. It's just got a great vibe too. I know I use that term a lot when I talk about music, but it really does. It captures a moment, makes you feel like you're in a moment. It really does create a bubble for you while you're listening to it.
Yeah, I agree. Love it.
Through the Mists of Time, which the more I listen to this, the more it's growing on me. It's a very, for me at least, it's a very different track for AC/DC. That sounds like AC/DC, but dare I say that it has a little bit of Def Leppard in it. Especially in the chorus and in just the overall structure of the song. I think it's a great song. I think it's different. Probably the most, different track on the album that you're kind of not expecting.
Well, and the next two songs actually kind of fall into that, and I agree with you. I think that Through the Mist of Time, it's going to be interesting to see what other people think of it. What do the diehard AC/DC fans think of it? What's the casual fan think of it? It almost falls into I agree with the Def Leppard analogy is good. It's kind of like their ballad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do love the song, and this is where I get maybe a little bit soft and a little bit sentimental. This is the side of me that is a little bit more on the sentimental side. But I was thinking about this song, and I thought, if you were ever going to do a photo or video montage of great moments in your life, you're probably using this song behind it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like my best friend, besides my wife, is also a huge AC/DC fan. Him and I have known each other since high school. Ironically, his name's Dean as well. And we met AC/DC twice together. We've done all the concerts. And I thought, boy, if I was ever going to do a photo montage of all our great concert moments, I would probably have this song playing behind the photos. I just kind of have that vibe to it, when you're listening to it and picturing my wife and I, hot summer day with the tops off the Jeep and going out for a drive and cranking up this song. It just has that type of feel to it, in my opinion. And it'll be interesting to see what people think of it. I love it. I think the Angus guitar solo in it, it has a lot of feeling to it. And it kind of almost brings a tear to my eye, that song. And again, that's just the soft side of me. But I love the song.
Yeah, no, like I said, every time I listen to it, it grows on me more. And it is a little bit of a different pace for AC/DC. And I am curious as well to see how the diehards react to a song like this, because it's not just, there's a lot of nuance in this song too, as well. It's got a lot of layers to it.
It sure does. I put this on with my Bose headphones on, and I challenge anybody that I don't like the song or whatever, and that's fine. You don't have to like it, but sit back with that song on and think of just great things that have happened in your life over time, right? And just put those pictures in your mind. Great moments with your kids or your wife, your family, whatever, your parents, whatever it might be, and just think about the good things in life and listen to that song. And I challenge anybody not to feel that.
I think it's exciting that 50th anniversary parties may actually have an AC/DC song to commemorate the memories.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. You never know. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base.
No, I don't think so.
I'm a little biased because I'm being the fan that I am, I'm one of these guys that, AC/DC doesn't do too much wrong. So, that's my 2 cents on that one.
Kick You When You're Down is the 5th track on side 1. It is the one song that really hasn't connected with me yet on side one. It's a rocker. It's a great tune, but just hasn't grabbed me yet.
So there you go, right? And interesting where Rejection didn't connect with me yet. Kick You When You're Down is almost has a funk feel to it, doesn't it?
It does.
Personally, I love it. I have it in my top 3 right now, Jay. It is very different. I love that oh no background vocal throughout. Again, this is one I think will be one of the songs that it might even be a I love it or I hate it type of song with AC/DC fans. It'll be interesting, but I certainly, it's connected with me, and when it comes on, I tend to crank it up a little bit more.
Yeah, like I said, I'm continuing to listen to it. It just hasn't, grabbed me yet. But like I said to you with Rejection, a week or two from now, it may hit me and may fall in love with it.
Yeah, you bet.
The next song is Witch's Spell, which is one of my favorites. I go back and forth with another song that we're going to talk about in a bit here, but Witch's Spell has such a great groove. Angus is just awesome on this song. Probably, if it's not my favorite, it's my number 2.
Awesome. I love it too. But it's funny, I had to hear it a few times until it started to grab me. When I first heard it, first 1 or 2 times, I was like, yeah, it's okay. But then the more I listened to it, it's growing on me in a big way. I think the bass line, the bass effects on this song is awesome. Again, the Phil and Cliff rhythm section on it, I think, is phenomenal. I personally would have made this the second song on the album. I think had they put this one instead of Rejection and went Realize, Witch's Spell, Shot in the Dark, Through the Mist, Kick You When You're Down, I think then the first 6 songs, it would have been just absolutely ridiculous. I really like this one.
Yeah, I love it. It's just, it's your quintessential AC/DC song, and it just rocks. It just comes, it just jumps out of the speakers. It's just a great groove.
The rhythm, the intro, the first 24 seconds, when it starts, and that first, I think it's about first 23 or 24 seconds, is absolutely killer.
I agree. There's nothing to disagree. I mean, this song is just, it has a great setup and a huge payoff. So if that's where I'm at. Like I said, if it's not my number 1, it's definitely a close number 2. Moving on to side 2, we start with Demon's Fire, which is another typical AC/DC rocker. It's a great tune. I wouldn't probably put it in my top 3 or 4, but I do enjoy the song.
Interesting, because it's fire. Demon Fire is fire. I kind of made some notes here, and that was the first thing I wrote down. Demon Fire is fire. It's fast. It's straight ahead. Pure AC/DC rock and roll. I envision this one. This is another driving fast song, out on the highway and just pedal to the metal. I have it in my top 3. It's a much, much better Safe in New York City. and if you, Jay, go back and listen to Safe in New York City off Stiff Upper Lip and then listen to Demon Fire. It's incredible, actually, how much of it's the same.
Really? Okay. I will definitely check that out. Number 8, the second song on side 2 is my favorite song on the album, and that is Wild Reputation. I instantly connected with this song above any other song on the album. Again, like Shot in the Dark, I put it on repeat and just kept listening to it. And for me, after Demon Fire, it really sets up a chain of great songs on side 2. It really does. And Wild Reputation, it's the shortest song on the album at just under 3 minutes, but it rocks. It's just got a great groove. It's kind of, it's very reminiscent, or has a very type of feel like a Gone Shootin', or like an Overdose. Yes.
Oh, I agree. Top 5 for me, 100%. I think it's the absolute perfect follow-up song to Demon Fire, because it's not quite as fast. It doesn't have quite the tempo, but it's still a very up-tempo song, and it just keeps that momentum. It's that song that the train is just chugging down the track, right? After Demon Fire into Wild Reputation. And this song too, I was looking back, I thought, this would have been a very, very good second song on the album as well if you didn't do Rejection or Witch's Spell. I thought Wild Reputation is another one that would have fit in that spot. Just killer.
And it is the stripper song of the album. AC/DC always has a strip club song on the album, and Wild Reputation is that song.
Oh, I was thinking Money Shot.
Well, that's another one too. That's another one too. Because I mean, it is. AC/DC does have a lot of fans in that industry, and I was thinking Wild Reputation, but now you mentioned Money Shot, which we'll get to here, is definitely a contender as well. But as I mentioned with Wild Reputation, it really sets up the rest of the album, and it kind of goes on cruise control after that with No Man's Land, which I think is another incredible track.
Yeah, I caught that feeling as well. And 9 through 12, Money Shot picks it up a little bit, but No Man's Land, Systems Down, Code Red, so the final 9, 10, 11, and 12, when you said cruise control, I think that is just a perfect analogy, because when I was driving today, it's like balls to the wall, right, for those first 8 songs. And then you come into 9 through 12, and you put the seat back, put it on cruise control, and just let the music do the talking. Yeah. All 4 songs are phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, out of those 4 remaining songs, Systems Down is an incredible track. It really is.
Yes.
No Man's Land is a great song. Systems Down, it's similar. I would probably say it's probably top 3 or 4 if I were to, for me. Yeah. And then Into Money Shot, and a great closer with Code Red.
Yes, absolutely.
What are your top 3 songs?
Well, I think Realize, Kick You When You're Down, Demon Fire would be my top 3.
Okay.
But then, Shot in the Dark, Witch's Spell, Wild Reputation would be, that's kind of my, did I do 7 there? I did 8, right? Yeah, I did 8. Those are kind of my top 7. Realize, Shot in the Dark, Through the Mist of Time, Kick You When You're Down, Witch's Spell, Demon Fire, Wild Reputation. Those are kind of those would be in my top 7 for sure. And then Systems Down, Money Shot. How do you choose, right? No Man's Land and then Code Red. Like, honestly, it's like you're picking your favorite child.
If I had to go with top 3, it would be Wild Reputation, Witch's Spell, Shot in the Dark, and then if I had to round out a top 5, it'd be Systems Down and probably Realize.
Right on. Yeah.
That would be my, and then of course Rejection, I like, Through the Mists of Time, No Man's Land, Money Shot. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of, I mean, like I said, out of the last few albums from AC/DC, this is their strongest effort. I don't know if they really kind of started with the base of Malcolm's riffs. I don't know how it differed from previous recordings. Maybe they had kind of a spiritual thing going on without Malcolm. I don't know. But they really nailed it on this record. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better record during these times. And like I've been saying, the angst is there. And if what I've been saying over several episodes over the past few months about how the angst and anger is being created for a perfect recipe for the resurgence of rock and roll, it starts here. It starts here because from what I had a conversation with a band member, and his comment was he's heard some of these other new albums that are coming out in 2021, and everybody is swinging for the fences. So this is kind of like the leadoff hitter for me.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I think, honestly, start to finish, this is their best album in years. It's better than Rock or Bust. It's better than Black Ice. I would argue, you know, it goes back to early 80s in my opinion, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I think it might be their best album start to finish since Flick of the Switch.
I was just going to say that. I absolutely agree. Flick of the Switch is, to me, is their last great album through and through. And, you know, I mean, they've had moments on every album since. They've had moments, but all the way from song one to the end, you know, there's been some hiccups. There's been some down songs or whatever, songs that really just didn't sound like they were kind of filler, maybe, if you will. This is a solid album. And if you've given up on AC/DC because of what I just said, this is a great album to be reintroduced to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went through and I listened to Rock or Bust today. I listened to Black Ice today. And there's 3 or 4 songs on both albums that I like, but Black Ice has 15 songs. That's a lot of filler.
Yeah. What do you think is next? I mean, obviously, we're all kind of waiting around to see what live music will become in 2021. I mean, obviously, AC/DC is going to tour this, and they're probably going to crisscross the globe several times over for a few years on this album. You know, we mentioned the ages of, you know, Cliff and Brian in their 70s, and obviously Phil and Angus are approaching 70. We've talked about, I think we discussed this when we first had you on, or when, you know, this is probably going to be the last AC/DC tour, because they do tour a long time, you know, when they do release an album. So it's going to be a 2 or 3 year tour. Maybe they come back on the last leg and do kind of like a legacy thing, kind of like what Iron Maiden does, where they kind of do all their hits and stuff. But I just, at this point, I'd be very surprised to see another album. I know Angus just said they've got enough for 2 or 3 albums, and that's great. But I just don't see that happening.
No, and it really is going to hinge on the whole COVID situation and when we get live music back, right? And like, let's keep our fingers crossed that at some point next year, we're going to be in a position to see live music again and see some of these big bands kick off their world tours. And that's my thought, is that is what we'll see. It'll be a 2-year tour, you know, as long as everything is going right and these guys are in proper health and so forth, that they'll tour this for a couple of years. And I agree with you. I think this is it. So, you know, as a massive AC/DC fan, I'm ecstatic the fact that I can put on some new music from them. And there's that hope to see them one more time. When I was at the Rock or Bust show, in my mind at that point, I was like, this is it. Like, just soak in every minute of this concert, because it's probably going to be the last time we see them. And to be sitting here today talking to you at the possibility that we'll get that opportunity one more time is quite thrilling for me. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You know, it's an opportunity to take my son to see them. And even though he's not the biggest AC/DC fan, I think that'll change once he sees them live. And, you know, it is something to be, to look forward to, as we've lost a lot of our heroes, our music heroes, over the last year and a half. You know, no bigger than Eddie Van Halen last month. You know, so if you're contemplating whether to see AC/DC, like Dean just said, this is probably it. That's, you know, we both agree on that, and get out and get the tickets and go see them.
Absolutely. Great rock and roll band. And it doesn't matter where you go. How many events have you gone to? How many weddings have you gone to? How many office parties have you gone to? And it seems like whenever AC/DC comes on, it gets the crowd going and gets the dance floor going. And they're just the ultimate party band, ultimate rock band. And if you do have the chance to see them, I highly recommend it. I've seen them 10 times, and I want to see them 11 times. And it's a thrill every time. And the crowd's just absolutely crazy. watch River Plate, and of course down in South America, they're just phenomenal down there for their rock music. But you put on River Plate and see how the crowd reacts to an AC/DC show. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite live concert movies is the live at River Plate. I mean, that crowd is just insane. I mean, insane, I almost find myself watching the crowd more than I am watching the band because it's jaw dropping. It really is. So
much fun. No, you've seen them though. Have you seen AC/DC, Jay?
Yeah, I saw them with White Lion on I think it's the Money Talks tour.
Yeah, that was 1988, I think, wasn't it? Something Blow Up Your Video?
Yeah, it was either Blow Up Your Video or Razor's Edge.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, Dean, it has been
just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean, it's been a blast. I'm so happy that you came on and did this because when I was thinking about doing this, I immediately thought of you because, I mean, your posts and your pictures and all that are just, awe-inspiring and enjoy having you on. And I'm glad that you were able to come on and do the review for Power Up by AC/DC.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Jay. Honestly, it's with the caliber of guests that you have on your podcast, and you've got so many amazing people on your show. It's a real thrill for me and an honor to be able to come on and talk about one of my favorite bands of all time, and really excited about this album and just excited about what's coming in the future and potential concerts and everything. So I appreciate it, Jay. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey man, you were there at the beginning. So anytime you want to come on and, maybe we'll do a show about the End of the Road tour for Kiss, because I know that's another one of your favorite bands, and we'll definitely do that as well.
Sounds good, man. All the best.
All right, Dean. Thank you very much. Once again, everybody, a special edition of the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. It's the review of Power Up by AC/DC. If you haven't listened to it yet, you got to check it out. If you haven't bought it yet, you got to go buy it. This is the album we need in 2020. I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay healthy, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.